The year 2026 promises to be the happiest of your life, but not for the reasons you might expect. Carl Jung, a pioneering figure in psychology, uncovered a truth that most people unknowingly overlook throughout their existence. The actual path to happiness deviates significantly from conventional wisdom. It's not merely about accumulating wealth, securing the ideal relationship, or finally reaching that long-sought-after major objective. Jung observed that relentlessly pursuing happiness through these external means often yields the exact opposite result. Such a chase frequently leads to a quiet, profound sense of misery, which many tragically mistake for the normal course of life. Jung's profound revelation was truly radical. He posited that our continuous attempts to appear happy are, in essence, a performance, a mask he termed the persona. This persona is the carefully constructed version of ourselves that we present to the world. It's the fixed smile we maintain even when our inner world is crumbling. The automatic "I'm fine" we utter when absolutely nothing feels right. The danger in this facade is immense. The more we strive to project happiness, the more we suppress and bury our genuine selves. We push down our anger, our sadness, and every part of us that doesn't conform to that cheerful image. Jung identified that this creates an internal schism, an ongoing conflict between who we pretend to be and our authentic selves. Across decades of his extensive clinical practice, Jung repeatedly witnessed this pattern. Individuals would consult him, seemingly successful, having achieved all the milestones society promised would bring contentment. Yet beneath the surface, they felt profoundly hollow. They had willingly traded their authenticity for external validation, sacrificing their true nature to uphold a socially acceptable image, and the psychological toll was utterly devastating. Jung concluded that this fundamental disconnect between the persona and the authentic self stands as one of the primary wellsprings of human suffering in modern existence. Regrettably, most people choose to ignore the specific psychological shifts that could genuinely transform 2026. These shifts are undeniably uncomfortable, demanding that you confront aspects of yourself you've diligently avoided for years. However, Jung definitively found that these internal changes are the only ones capable of fostering lasting happiness. This isn't about the fleeting high of a new acquisition or a temporary achievement. It's about the deep, abiding satisfaction that comes from finally achieving wholeness. This profound journey is precisely what we will explore. The essential steps you must take in 2026 if you truly aspire to be happy. And let me caution you now, these are not the comforting, superficial platitudes you'll encounter everywhere else. Let's begin by examining why every conventional approach you've tried thus far has ultimately fallen short. Why do all the positive thinking exercises, vision boards, and goal-setting strategies often leave you feeling even emptier than before? Jung unearthed a truth that the self-help industry often sidesteps. Happiness is not something you actively pursue and capture. Rather, it is a natural byproduct that emerges when you finally cease running from yourself. Consider the last time you experienced genuine happiness, not just distraction or entertainment, but a profound sense of inner peace. Chances are, it wasn't because you acquired something desired. Instead, it was likely a moment when you simply stopped pretending. Throughout his extensive career, Jung meticulously studied thousands of individuals, consistently observing a striking pattern. Those who appeared outwardly happiest, the ones seemingly blessed with perfect lives and perpetual smiles, were often the most inwardly miserable. They had masterfully constructed beautiful personas, impressive masks that garnered widespread admiration, yet beneath these facades, they were desolate. They had sacrificed their true selves on the altar of approval, burying everything authentic in their relentless pursuit of looking good. The sheer weight of this constant performance was slowly, invisibly, crushing them. This brings us directly to the first crucial step you must undertake. Jung termed it confronting the shadow. Your shadow encompasses every facet of yourself that you have suppressed or disowned. The anger you've been conditioned not to feel. The selfishness you've been taught is wrong. The inherent darkness you vehemently pretend doesn't exist. Most individuals spend their entire lives in a relentless flight from their shadow, meticulously constructing their identity around being perpetually nice, good, or positive. But here's Jung's pivotal discovery. Anything you reject within yourself doesn't simply vanish. It retreats underground, operating in the unseen depths, subtly influencing your decisions, sabotaging your relationships, and ultimately creating the very problems you desperately try to avoid. Picture, for instance, someone who prides themselves on being endlessly kind. They are never outwardly angry, always prioritize others' needs, and smile through every perceived boundary violation. On the surface, they project an image of saintliness. Yet beneath this veneer, a potent rage seethes, unacknowledged. This suppressed emotion manifests in subtle ways: passive-aggressive remarks, sudden explosive reactions to trivial matters, or a deep-seated resentment toward the very people they claim to love. This individual has not transcended anger, they have merely buried it. And that buried anger is insidiously dictating their life from the shadows. Jung's clinical observations confirmed this pattern countless times. He noted that the most outwardly peaceful individuals frequently harbored the most turbulent inner worlds. Those who vehemently prided themselves on never losing their temper were often the very ones whose suppressed rage erupted in baffling physical symptoms, destructive relationship dynamics, or sudden emotional breakdowns. This was no mere coincidence. It was the inevitable psychological consequence of refusing to integrate the shadow. Jung profoundly understood that genuine psychological health required wholeness, not an unattainable perfection. It necessitated acknowledging all parts of oneself, not just the socially palatable ones. Therefore, in 2026, here's what you must commit to. Sign what I call a shadow contract. This entails consciously ceasing your flight from the parts of yourself you deem undesirable. Instead, you turn, face them directly, and acknowledge their existence. The anger, the jealousy, the pettiness, the selfishness. The purpose is not to indulge these impulses, but to deeply understand their origins and functions. For Jung discovered something truly remarkable: when you accept your shadow, you unlock a vast reservoir of its inherent energy. All the power you previously expended on suppressing your inner darkness now becomes available for authentic, vibrant living. Let me provide a practical illustration. Suppose you've always defined yourself by your selflessness, giving tirelessly without ever asking for anything in return. However, deep within, a part of you silently rages against this dynamic, feeling used, harboring a secret resentment towards those you constantly assist. Instead of denying this resentment, you consciously acknowledge it. Remember, empaths aren't broken, they are alchemists in progress. You sit with this feeling, allowing yourself to fully experience the intensity of your anger without immediately acting upon it. And then, something profound shifts. You realize you don't have to be entirely selfless or entirely selfish. You can choose to give authentically when your heart genuinely desires it, and confidently set boundaries when necessary. The immense energy previously consumed by maintaining your selfless persona is now liberated, available for genuine, unburdened generosity. Consider a composite case profile, based on patterns Jung observed repeatedly in his practice, that perfectly illustrates this dynamic. We see it clearly in the story of a woman known as the most giving person in her community. She was always volunteering, always helping, always available. Everyone adored her. Yet she sought therapeutic help because she was plagued by violent dreams where she was physically harming the very people she dedicated her days to assisting. A Jungian analyst would immediately recognize the underlying dynamic. Her conscious mind had vehemently banished all selfishness, but her unconscious was screaming in protest. The shadow invariably finds a way to express itself. If you refuse to acknowledge it consciously, it will erupt unconsciously. Through therapeutic work guided by Jung's framework, this pattern revealed itself with striking clarity. The individual gradually learned to honor her own needs without guilt. She discovered that she could embody both generosity and healthy boundaries, and that prioritizing her own well-being didn't make her selfish, it made her sustainable. The violent dreams ceased, not because she became less giving, but because she was no longer engaged in an exhausting internal war. She had signed the shadow contract. She had made peace with the parts of herself she had been conditioned to reject. This, Jung identified throughout his extensive research, is the transformative power of shadow integration. This leads directly to the second crucial action you must take. Jung observed that most people inadvertently diminish their own joy by relentlessly striving to be good. This assertion sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Isn't being good the ultimate aspiration? However, Jung made a pivotal distinction that fundamentally alters this perspective. He declared that we must strive to be whole, not merely good. To be good implies rigidly conforming to external standards of behavior, suppressing facets of yourself to align with moral codes often imposed by others. To be whole, conversely, means embracing and integrating all aspects of yourself, both light and dark, into a cohesive, functioning unity. Reflect on the sheer exhaustion involved in perpetually maintaining a good image. It demands constant self-monitoring, policing your thoughts, and concealing your genuine reactions. You perpetually pretend to be more patient, more forgiving, more enlightened than you authentically are. Jung discovered that this continuous performance utterly depletes your life force. Sustaining a false front consumes an enormous amount of energy that could otherwise be channeled into creativity, meaningful connection, or genuine personal growth. Instead, it is squandered entirely on upholding an illusion. The psychological research Jung conducted unveiled a fascinating aspect of this phenomenon. He found that individuals who exerted the most effort to be good frequently ended up behaving in ways that directly contradicted their conscious values. Their suppressed qualities would emerge in indirect, unconscious behaviors they couldn't even recognize within themselves. For instance, a person who prided themselves on never judging others might subtly engage in forms of criticism they themselves failed to notice. An individual who saw themselves as perfectly honest might practice sophisticated forms of self-deception. This wasn't hypocrisy in the traditional sense. It was the inevitable consequence of attempting to eradicate intrinsic parts of human nature rather than integrating them. Here's what happens when you finally shed the good persona. Initially, it's terrifying. You're gripped by the fear that people will reject you if they perceive your true self. But Jung unearthed something profoundly beautiful. When you stop performing goodness and commit to living authentically, you become whole. And wholeness possesses an undeniable magnetism that performance can never emulate. People instinctively sense the difference between someone who is genuinely integrated and someone who is desperately maintaining an image. The integrated individual radiates a profound sense of peace that all the forced positivity in the world simply cannot replicate. Jung characterized this process as the death of the ideal self. We all carry an internalized image of who we believe we should be: the flawless parent, the perfectly selfless friend, the perpetually patient partner. We relentlessly torment ourselves, striving to meet these unattainable standards. And every time we inevitably fall short, which is a constant occurrence, we are consumed by feelings of failure. But Jung recognized that the ideal self is, in fact, a tyrant. It demands absolute perfection while offering nothing but relentless criticism. Shedding this tyrant initially feels like a psychological death. Without the ideal self driving you forward, who are you? The answer is both beautifully simple and profoundly significant. You are human. Gloriously, messily, imperfectly human. So, in 2026, grant yourself the radical permission to stop being good. This does not imply becoming cruel or selfish. It means embracing honesty. It means confidently saying no when you truly mean no. It means candidly admitting when you are exhausted, angry, or overwhelmed. It means abandoning the draining act of pretending you are more evolved than you actually are. Jung discovered that this profound honesty liberates immense amounts of energy. The energy you once expended on maintaining your mask becomes fully available for authentic living. And it is precisely at this juncture that genuine happiness becomes truly attainable. The third crucial element involves something most people completely disregard. Jung referred to it as attending to the unconscious. Your unconscious mind is in constant communication with you, speaking through dreams, intuitions, and gut feelings. Yet the vast majority of people have been conditioned to dismiss these subtle signals. They place absolute trust in their rational minds, completely overlooking all other forms of inner guidance. Jung recognized this as a catastrophic error. Your unconscious holds knowledge that your conscious mind cannot access. It perceives patterns you are too intimately involved to notice. It understands your deepest needs long before you are consciously prepared to admit them. Make it a priority in 2026 to pay close attention to your dreams, not in a mystical or supernatural sense, but practically. Your dreams serve as your unconscious mind's primary mechanism for processing information that your conscious mind struggles to handle. When you experience a recurring dream, it is your psyche urgently attempting to convey something vital. When you awaken with a strong feeling or intuition about a particular situation, it's not random, it's critical information surfacing from deeper levels of awareness. Jung found that individuals who cultivate the ability to listen to these signals consistently make superior decisions, often averting disasters their purely rational minds would have led them directly into. Jung's extensive research into dream analysis revealed that the unconscious communicates through a rich, symbolic language that remains consistent across diverse cultures and time periods. He famously called these universal symbols archetypes. For instance, when you dream of water, you are often navigating emotions. A dream featuring a house frequently explores different facets of your psyche, and a dream of being chased often indicates that you are running from something in your waking life that urgently needs to be confronted. Understanding this symbolic language empowers you to decode the profound messages your unconscious is perpetually transmitting. Here's a simple practice Jung specifically recommended. Before you fall asleep, consciously pose a question to your unconscious, something you are genuinely struggling with. Then, pay close attention to your dreams that night. Do not anticipate literal answers. The unconscious communicates through symbols and feelings. However, you will often awaken with a newfound clarity you didn't possess before, or you'll notice a subtle yet significant shift in how you perceive the situation. Jung's profound insight was that the unconscious is tirelessly working on your behalf, provided you are willing to listen. But here's what many people often misunderstand about the unconscious. It is not attempting to baffle you with cryptic symbols. Rather, it strives to reveal truths that your conscious mind is not yet ready to confront directly. If you dream of being chased, your unconscious might be illustrating your avoidance of a challenging situation in your waking life. If you dream of losing your teeth, it could be expressing underlying anxiety about a loss of power or control. The unconscious employs images precisely because they bypass the rational mind's defenses. They subtly slip past the ego's gatekeepers, delivering crucial information directly to your emotional core. This brings us to the fourth and perhaps most pivotal practice. Jung drew a critical distinction between ego goals and soul tasks. Ego goals are ambitions you pursue primarily because they enhance your image, confer a sense of external success, or garner approval from others. Soul tasks, conversely, are endeavors that organically emerge from your deepest intrinsic nature. They require no external validation because they are profoundly aligned with who you authentically are. Most people spend their entire lives chasing ego goals, only to wonder why, even upon achieving them, success feels profoundly hollow. Reflect on your current aspirations. Are you pursuing them because you genuinely love the process itself, or because you are enamored with what achieving them will communicate about you to the world? Are you working towards something because it genuinely ignites an inner spark, or because it will impress others? Jung discovered that motivation rooted in the ego inevitably leads to disappointment. Even when the goal is achieved, it fails to truly satisfy, because what you genuinely desired was not the achievement itself, but the ephemeral feeling of worthiness you mistakenly believed that achievement would bestow. Jung's seminal concept of individuation centers precisely on this distinction. He observed that the first half of life is typically characterized by the robust development of the ego. During this period, we diligently build careers, establish identities, and accumulate external markers of success. This phase is both necessary and important. However, Jung found that true psychological maturity, which unfolds in the second half of life, demands a profound shift. We must transition from ego-driven achievement to soul-driven expression. This does not mean abandoning ambition or success entirely. Instead, it signifies ensuring that your ambitions originate from authentic self-knowledge rather than unconscious needs for external validation. In 2026, consciously shift your motivation from ego to soul. This means engaging in activities for the inherent love of the action itself, rather than solely for the reward at the end. It means choosing pursuits that cause you to lose all track of time, not because they will lead to an impressive outcome, but because they are genuine expressions of your authentic nature. Jung referred to this as following your bliss, but he wasn't advocating for mere pleasure-seeking. He meant aligning your actions with your deepest values and intrinsic interests, irrespective of whether they lead to conventional societal success. Here is the simple yet powerful test Jung offered. If all external rewards were suddenly removed, if no one would ever know what you accomplished, would you still want to do it? If your answer is an unequivocal yes, that signifies a soul task. If the answer is no, then it is an ego goal. Most people fill their lives with ego goals and then express bewilderment when they feel empty, even in the midst of external success. The ego can never truly be satisfied because it is perpetually comparing, perpetually needing more, perpetually seeking validation from external sources. The soul, on the other hand, finds profound fulfillment in authentic expression. It requires no applause because it is already complete within itself. So, critically examine your plans for 2026. How much of your valuable time and energy is dedicated to looking good versus genuinely being authentic? How many of your goals are primarily driven by external validation versus deep internal alignment? Jung discovered that when individuals consciously shift from ego-driven to soul-driven living, their entire experience of life transforms. They are no longer trapped on a treadmill of relentless achievement and subsequent disappointment. Instead, they become engaged in profoundly meaningful work that sustains them, regardless of the ultimate external outcome. This highlights the crucial distinction between busy work and meaningful work. Busy work encompasses anything you do primarily because you feel obligated, because you believe it will bring you money, status, or approval. It keeps you occupied but ultimately leaves you feeling empty. Meaningful work, conversely, is anything that arises from your authentic interests and deepest values. It might not be recognized or rewarded by others, but it intrinsically nourishes you from within. Jung concluded that a life dedicated to meaningful work, even if that work is humble and largely unrecognized, is infinitely more satisfying than a life devoted to impressive yet ultimately soul-deadening achievements. Now, let me synthesize all these insights. The happiest year of your life isn't contingent on everything going perfectly right. Instead, it's about cultivating an inner resilience that makes you unbreakable, precisely because you have finally become your true self. When you have courageously confronted your shadow, you are no longer paralyzed by fear of your own darkness. When you have consciously shed the good persona, you are liberated from the exhaustion of perpetual performance. When you learn to actively listen to your unconscious, you are guided by a profound wisdom that far surpasses mere rational thought. And when you prioritize pursuing soul tasks over ego goals, you find deep fulfillment in the process itself, no longer dependent on external outcomes. This, in essence, is what Jung termed individuation. It is the lifelong process of becoming whole, of integrating all disparate parts of yourself into a harmonious, functioning unity. And he discovered that this profound state of wholeness generates a unique kind of happiness that external circumstances cannot diminish, precisely because it does not rely on external conditions. It emanates from deep internal alignment. You are no longer waging war against yourself. You are no longer pretending to be someone you are not. You are no longer chasing achievements solely to validate your worth. You are simply being who you authentically are. And that, Jung profoundly affirmed, is entirely enough. Jung dedicated decades to developing and refining this profound understanding, drawing from both his extensive clinical work and his own intensely personal journey. His concept of individuation was far from theoretical. It emerged directly from observing what genuinely worked for countless individuals seeking psychological wholeness. He consistently noticed that those who achieved genuine, lasting happiness shared distinct characteristics. They had undertaken the challenging work of shadow integration. They had released their attachment to external validation. They had cultivated a meaningful relationship with their unconscious, and they had courageously aligned their outer lives with their inner truth. These were not isolated achievements, but intricately interconnected aspects of a single, transformative process. The year 2026 will genuinely be your happiest if you profoundly grasp this truth. It is not a year for chasing external goals. It is a year for internal becoming. You will not discover happiness out there, amidst achievements and acquisitions. You will find it deep within, in the core of your own being, when you finally cease running from yourself. Jung spent his entire life meticulously studying human consciousness, working with thousands of patients, and he consistently reaffirmed that the individuals who discovered genuine happiness were invariably the ones who committed to this inner work, the ones who dared to face their shadows, shed their masks, listen to their deepest inner wisdom, and align their actions with their authentic nature. So, here is your practical assignment for 2026. Begin by creating an honest list of everything you have consciously or unconsciously rejected about yourself, all the qualities you have labeled as bad or wrong. This could include your anger, your selfishness, your laziness, or any other trait you've been diligently hiding. Then, instead of attempting to eradicate these qualities, strive to understand them deeply. What purpose do they serve? What underlying need are they trying to fulfill? Jung discovered that when we truly understand our shadow qualities, we can consciously integrate them. Next, pinpoint one area where you are currently maintaining a false persona, where you are pretending to be more patient, more forgiving, or more positive than you authentically feel. Then, boldly experiment with being honest. Not brutally honest, but authentically honest. Observe what happens when you cease performing and simply start being real. Continuously commit to paying closer attention to your dreams and intuitions. Keep a notebook beside your bed and, upon waking, promptly jot down whatever you recall. Over time, you will begin to discern patterns, and your unconscious will start communicating with greater clarity because you are finally listening. Finally, critically examine your goals for 2026. For each one, ask yourself honestly, is this truly an ego goal or a soul task? Am I pursuing this because I genuinely love it or because I feel I should? Is it about external appearance or internal resonance? Then, summon the courage to release the ego goals and wholeheartedly commit to the soul tasks. This is precisely how you will make 2026 the happiest year of your life. Not by chasing more, achieving more, or becoming more in the external sense, but by bravely facing your shadows, consciously shedding your masks, attentively listening to your inner depths, and authentically aligning with your true nature. Jung's profound insight was that happiness isn't merely found. It is something that organically emerges when we finally stop running from ourselves. It arises when we integrate our inherent darkness, fully embrace our wholeness, implicitly trust our unconscious wisdom, and courageously follow our soul's authentic calling. The year ahead is not about striving for an impossible perfection. It is about embracing profound authenticity, about becoming so deeply aligned with your true self that external circumstances lose their power to disrupt your fundamental inner peace. This is the unshakable happiness Jung discovered in his own life and guided countless others to uncover. It is not dependent on success or failure, approval or rejection, gain or loss. It is the profound happiness of being whole, integrated, and authentically yourself. So, as you step into 2026, carry this vital truth with you. You do not need to chase happiness. What you truly need is to cease running from yourself. Face your shadows, drop your masks, listen to your depths, follow your soul, and then watch as genuine lasting happiness, the kind that truly endures, emerges from within. Not because everything magically went right, but because you finally became whole. That is the invaluable gift Jung offered the world. The profound understanding that true happiness springs not from acquiring what we want, but from bravely becoming who we truly are. Make 2026 the year you finally give yourself that most precious gift. If this perspective on happiness profoundly resonates with you, and you harbor a desire to understand your own mind at deeper, more intricate levels, please consider liking and subscribing to this channel. We regularly delve into the profound insights of Carl Jung and explore their timeless applicability to modern life. And always remember, the journey to authentic happiness truly begins the moment you stop performing and courageously start being real. Thank you for watching, and here's to your happiest year yet.